Hi, everyone. My name is Jesse Robbins, and welcome to LPLE from Dialogue FM. We're the podcast that lets you practice listening in English. We speak English slowly and clearly so that you can follow along and understand native English speakers more easily. I'm excited to help you improve your English listening skill, as well as help you learn new vocabulary, grammar, and idioms commonly heard in conversations among native English speakers. If you want to practice listening in English, then we invite you to join our conversation. Hi, everybody. This is Jesse, and today I am recording this episode by myself again because, unfortunately, Jane is still sick with a cold. Jane, earlier this morning, sent me a text message telling me that she was still coughing and that she was worried that her coughing would affect the recording. A cough, maybe everyone knows, a cough sounds like this, whereas a sneeze sounds like so that's a important difference to know. Jane, unfortunately, still has a cough, so she decided to take today off. Jane, if you're listening, we hope you feel better soon, and we look forward to hopefully talking to you next week. For today's recording, I figured I would answer some questions that I normally receive from international students studying the English language. Now remember, I have around 15 years of experience helping international students practice and improve their English. Over these 15 years, naturally, I have received the same question many times. So I decided to list a few of them and answer them on this episode. Now, after I'm done answering these questions, I want to invite you, the listening audience, to give me your questions about the English language or maybe some of the difficulties you have learning English. Maybe I can answer them on the Facebook page, or even better, I might answer some of them here on this podcast. The first question that I normally receive is, should I listen to music in order to learn English? So again, the question is, should I listen to music, probably American pop music or British music, to learn English? In my personal opinion, I think it depends. For me, I like to listen to Japanese music and I like to listen to Vietnamese music. However, I do not listen to music in order to improve my Japanese or Vietnamese, because I think that the vocabulary is very difficult in the songs and in the lyrics. However, I also think that listening to music can actually be pretty good if you include it in your entire environment. When you are learning English or any other language for that matter, I would strongly recommend that you change your environment to focus only on that language. So, for example, in your day, only listen to American music, only read and watch American news, only read English books, and only have conversations with people who speak English. When you write your Facebook posts or you post a picture on Instagram, you can write in English. I call this fake immersion. See, when you travel abroad, that's called total immersion. You are immersing yourself in that language and in that culture. However, if you live in Nepal or Mexico or France or Japan, maybe it's really difficult to have total immersion. So, in your house, you can change your environment so that it feels like you're living in America. So, using music as the only way to learn English is really difficult. However, if you include it in your entire English language learning environment, then I think it can actually be pretty beneficial. The second question is, how should I expand my vocabulary? So again, how should I expand my vocabulary? There are many different techniques to increase the amount of words that you know. For some people, learning vocabulary is very easy. And for others, like myself, learning new vocabulary can actually be really difficult. One of my personal favorite techniques is called related grouping. Related grouping means that I am learning a group of words that are related to each other. So, for example, if I learn the word weather, then it will be easier for me to remember words related to weather, like sunny, rainy, cloudy, sun, sky, warm, hot, cold, and cool. All of those words are related to weather. However, if I tried to learn words that are not related to each other, then I think it's more difficult to remember and recall those words. So, for example, if I learn the words weather, dog, table, economy, government, microphone, computer, those words are not related to each other. So I think it would be harder, more difficult for me to remember those words individually. That's why I recommend using related grouping. When you learn one word, try to learn the related words. Or, at the very least, try to remember the opposite. For example, if you learn the word hot, then at the very least, try to learn the word cold. That way, you can remember two words instead of just one. Another, not really a question, but more of a comment that I receive from international students, especially I think more from women than men, is that they are worried about making a mistake when they speak English. So the question is maybe, how can I avoid making a mistake when I speak English? I always tell those students that I think the best way you can learn the English language is to make mistakes. Mistakes are really good. I always encourage my friends to make mistakes when they talk to me. Mistakes are good for two reasons. Number one, they help you remember the correct way to speak after somebody corrects you. You won't know if you are using the word correctly until somebody tells you. So, that's why don't worry about making a mistake, just talk. Somebody will correct you, and then you can improve. 2, if you're worried about making a mistake, then that fear, that worry that you have in your brain will actually stop you, will prevent you from speaking out loud. The entire purpose for us to learn another language is to communicate, to talk to somebody else. If you're worried about making a mistake, it will be much harder for you to talk to somebody. So, don't worry about making a mistake. Don't worry about being perfect. It's okay. We understand. We native English speakers understand that you are still learning the English language. And that's okay. When I speak Vietnamese and Japanese, I know that I am not 100% perfect. That's okay. Maybe I will never be 100% perfect. But at the very least, I'm able to talk to somebody and build a new friendship. So don't worry about making a mistake. Another question that I get, which I think is a little bit interesting and funny, is which English accent should I learn? Which English accent? American English accent, British English accent, Australian English accent, Singaporean English accent. Which English accent should I learn? Okay. Now, I am biased. I am from the West Coast of America. So naturally, I believe that my accent is the best. West Coast American English. However, I also think that West Coast American English is easier to understand. I think it's more difficult to learn. However, I think it's easier to understand. It's easier to listen to and to understand what we are saying. So, for those learning the English language from an English language school, I understand that your school typically hires many different people with many different English accents. Sometimes they hire somebody from Australia. Sometimes they hire somebody from France. Sometimes they hire somebody from America. Sometimes they hire different people from different parts of America. And in America, there's different ways to speak English. West Coast English sounds very different from East Coast American English. East Coast American English sounds very different from the southern part of America. So I understand that it's probably really difficult for you to learn English when you are learning English from many different types of teachers. I don't have a solution for that. I can only hope that you focus on learning the West Coast American English. I truly believe that that is the easier English language to learn. The next question is, what is the most difficult thing about learning a language? Now, I get that question from both my international friends and also from my American friends who learn that I can speak other languages. My answer to that question is always that getting over the fear of embarrassment and getting over the fear of making a mistake is probably the most difficult thing about learning any language. Getting over the fear of being embarrassed and getting over the fear of making a mistake. That is probably the most difficult thing to learn. I honestly believe that learning how to read, how to write, how to listen, how to speak, and vocabulary, you can learn all those things with time. With enough time and with the right teachers, you could probably learn those 5 things very fast. Reading, writing, listening, speaking, and vocabulary grammar. You can probably learn those things very fast. However, all of those things are difficult to do if you feel embarrassed, if you feel afraid of making a mistake. So probably the most difficult thing is your mind. Learning how to feel comfortable making mistakes. If you can get over your fear of making a mistake and feeling embarrassed, then I promise you, your English language skill will increase very fast. Related to that question, another question I receive is, what is the most important skill for me to learn? Again, what is the most important English language skill for me to learn? Now, I mentioned in the last question that there is reading, writing, speaking, listening, and then vocabulary and grammar. In my opinion, I personally believe that listening is the most important skill. Listening and being a good listener will help you create better friendships more than being a good speaker. If I met somebody, it could be a local American, it could be an international friend from UK or Australia. It could be an international student from Spain or Vietnam. If I meet somebody and all they do is talk, just talk, if they just continue to talk, they might be good at speaking English, but I probably won't want to become their friend. Okay? However, if I meet somebody who is a good listener, they're good at paying attention, they're good at asking questions related to our conversation. If they are a good listener and they are really trying to understand the meaning of what I'm saying, they don't have to understand every word, okay? But if they are trying to understand the meaning, then I believe that I will want to become their friend. And if I become their friend, then chances are that we can continue to speak in English. I may help them improve their English. They might teach me their language. But no matter what, I think that the most important skill is listening. Lastly, the last question for today's episode is a funny question. However, many of my American friends and also my Japanese friends and my Vietnamese friends have asked me this question. Should I date a foreigner to improve my English? Should I have a boyfriend or girlfriend who speaks English in order to improve my English? Honestly, that is up to you. That's based on your preference and your personality. For me, I am not a fan of that method, which is to say, I don't like the idea of having a boyfriend or girlfriend who speaks English just so that you can practice English. When I was learning Japanese and Vietnamese, I did not have a Japanese girlfriend. And when I had girlfriends who were Vietnamese, I did not speak Vietnamese to them. The idea of finding a boyfriend or a girlfriend who can speak English just to practice, I think is actually a bad idea for one key reason. If you spend all of your time practicing English with only one person, then it might be more difficult for you to have conversations with other people who speak English differently. It's good for you to learn how to interact with and have conversations with people who speak different kinds of English. Now, when I say different kinds of English, I mean different voices, different speeds, different slang words, maybe even different accents. However, if you only rely on one person to practice your English language, then I think that it would be more difficult for you to have a conversation with other people. For me, I had many different Japanese friends who helped me learn the Japanese language. And I also had many different Vietnamese friends who helped me learn the Vietnamese language. So I would recommend having lots of friends who can speak English, but don't necessarily find an English-speaking boyfriend or girlfriend just to practice. That would be very difficult. Well, that's all the time I have today. It was fun talking to you and sharing with you my experiences, answering many questions that I get helping my international friends. Again, if you have a question that you would like to ask me, please let me know. I would love to answer your question on Facebook or here on this podcast. I hope that we see Jane next week. I miss talking to her, and I'm sure that you miss her voice as well. In the meantime, thank you again so much for your support and for your downloads. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to LPLE on iTunes. Take care and have a great week. Thank you for listening to this episode of LPLE. Let's practice listening in English from Dialogue FM. Subscribe to LPLE on iTunes to hear the latest episodes, or listen to past episodes on our website, dialogue.fm. That's dialog.fm. If you have questions or comments about English, or if you would like for us to use a word, grammar, or idiom in our conversation so you can learn how to use it correctly, we would love to hear from you on Twitter at dialogue.fm or Facebook at facebook.com/dialoguefm.